Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. We are officially and fully into the spring 2023 season now. Season 44 of the GLORIO blog, if you will.
Oh, baby.
We're already one season away from our 11th anniversary, but that's neither here nor there. 11th doesn't sound very special at this point, but yeah. Nobody
Old
cares
enough
about
to
the
drink.
I'm checking my notes here.
No? You sure?
I don't think
Not
vote.
That's
How,
not
old enough to
quite.
vote.
Ah, yes, there you go.
Buy cigarettes.
yeah, I don't think that's how that works. But anyway, yeah. So we've got a bunch of new anime to talk about, and the big name shows this season that we touched on last time. That oh boy, do they have a whole lot going on as well. So we got a lot to talk about. Before we do that, just to introduce everybody, I'm Jel, and I'm joined by Iro.
I'm still here. I'm not dead. Yet.
And we're joined by G.
I regret to inform everybody that despite appearing last in the roll call this podcast, I don't have a good podcast derailing bit to go this time, so I guess that's the bit this week.
All right, well, I hope we don't have any technical problems or issues with this recording that would make us have to start over here, because that would never happen, right, guys?
Certainly not. Perish the thought.
Yeah. Wink, wink. But yeah, we have a lot of anime to talk about, a lot of new shows. I was thinking, do I need to revive the cute anime battle royale this season? I feel like there's a lot of that going on once you cut out all the shows that we usually don't talk about. I mean, there's still plenty of the usual, isekai trash and
Isekai battle royale,
idol shows and all that. But we don't need to talk about all that.
Mm-hmm.
What we do need to talk about is the many different romantic comedies I've been watching.
The gel nip.
Let's jump into the new shows with My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999.
9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors.
not quite, but
okay.
I'm automatically wary of anything with video games in the title these days, because I assume it's going to be
who is at level 999? Is it Yamada-kun or is it the protagonist?
Oh, it's their love for each other. It's
level
999 is how I'm
honestly. If you've hit level 999, but you should prestige already.
Well, that could be dangerous with a romantic relationship, but anyway,
prestige your romantic relationship.
Yeah, you start over at level, level 1 married couple.
But you
level
have
1
a
dating.
cool emblem now.
Yes.
All the ready to you get a whole rig.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, anyway, this show, I for some reason in my brain I just assumed since it was video games, it was going to be some kind of isekai thing or whatever. But no, this is, I guess, technically a shoujo manga type of deal.
Sure.
Although the vibes to me are more like a J-drama, K-drama, romantic comedy type of thing, if you guys know the vibes on that. But
okay,
I could very easily see this being adapted to one of those goofy live action school comedy ones.
I'm sure it will in the next few years if it gains enough prominence.
In fact, I would.
Right. If Takagi-san can get live action, then anything can.
If Tonari no Seki-kun can get a live action. But anyway, yeah, so I actually ended up enjoying this quite a bit. It's a story. The story is about this girl who, she is not a gamer, but she takes up playing this MMO so she can spend more time with her boyfriend, who's into this, generic fantasy MMO game thing. And
well, the free trial goes up to Heaven's Word, and
yeah, you can play up to level 60, right? But so she gets into this MMO a little bit, and then her boyfriend dumps her because he found another girl in the game
Damn.
And she is just heartbroken over this. And, as she is kind of moping around, she decides to play a little bit more of the game, and through various circumstances ends up going to a event for the MMO, like a in-person event thing. And she runs into one of her guildmates who is a hot guy, and he's a pro gamer who plays FPS games, but he plays this MMO on the side. And one thing leads to another, and you get sort of a interesting combination of, I guess at its core, it is the most like basic boy meets girl heteronormative romance story thing going on, where they fall in love by doing basic human kindness to each other, which is fine. But you inject like 30% video games and a lot of dumb anime faces, and that's a lot of times that's all it takes to get me on board.
Yes.
But I don't want to sell the show too short, because I will say it's not a high school show.
Okay.
They are
sure
adults,
a bit older. I'm assuming the main girl is in college, so because she's got the first episode she gets flat out drunk, so she's at least 20, because you can't show underage drinking in anime, right?
Right.
And I think the drinking age in Japan is 20.
What was that one like Wotakoi or something a few years ago?
Yeah. Well, they were like actually like working at an office or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and yes, and she does talk about she has like a paper due or something every now and then, but we never really see her school life.
I mean, college is the time to get too invested into an MMO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's kind of nice that the video game aspect never becomes like the main focus.
Right.
So like she does
I assume it's like what people tend to actually use MMOs for, which is like a socializing tool. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So like she never
glorified chat room.
She never has like the like, oh wow, video games are really cool, I'm gonna like devote my whole life to this type of conversation, right? Like it's just like a thing she does, and like I said, it's probably like it might even be less than 30% of the show. Most of it is like kind of mixing that into the romantic comedy formula, like as far as like her meeting up with her guildmates in real life, and how meeting people online has impacted how you communicate with people and stuff like that. Like they kind of inject those kinds of things into it, and yeah, I mean it's a fun show. I think my favorite jokes are the ones that are sort of painful video game moments, because she's not a gamer, and like for example, the guild has like a community treasure chest thing,
right? Like a shared inventory type,
like a shared inventory thing, and the pro gamer guy and one of the other guild members are like, she overhears them complaining about how somebody keeps putting like all this like level 1 garbage equipment in the inventory, and I have to clean it out all the time. It's so annoying. And she's just like embarrassed, because she's like, I put it in there because I thought it would be helpful to all the lower level players, and that, and she's just like, it's like super embarrassing, because she doesn't know what she's doing. But
that's actually not a bad example of like a thing that is very video game related, but plays on a very real like social dynamic that like the average person might actually not be aware, right? Like it's that reminder that like video games often have very like ritualized like like unspoken social contracts.
Again, like the microcultures, right? Micro societies,
right? Like it's the thing of like like just like that type of like video game stuff, right? For example, I don't know, right? It's like it doesn't matter how high level the gear is. If it's a white, you throw it out, right?
Yeah.
Right. But yes, your average person is not going to know the rules that,
Yeah.
green is better, then blue, and then purple, and then
Right.
gold or orange, right?
Yeah,
you gotta-
exactly, right.
Yeah.
You eventually hit that point where it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, the average person might still go, oh, wow, blue, that's pretty nice. Meanwhile, the real sickos over here are like, if it ain't purple, it's,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I can't think of a word that rhymes with purple, so that's as far as this bit is going. But
Yes. But yeah, no. So I think that's like an example of how I think they're doing a good job of like incorporating
right.
the game aspects into like this being more about social interaction and relationships than video games. So
Right, without it like overtaking the
Yeah.
focus.
yeah. So yeah, so it's a lot of fun. I do have one question that I want to get your guys' opinion on, because
Okay.
they reveal something in I
Uh-oh.
forget if it's episode 2 or 3. So
Oh yeah.
as I mentioned, the main girl is at least 20, so she's probably, if she's still in college, she's probably like 20 to 22, right, in that
Sure.
age range.
Okay.
I assumed the main guy was the same age,
Uh-oh.
until it is revealed that he is in his final year of high school.
So 18.
Oh.
Is this
okay,
problematic?
18.
Is this problematic?
I mean, I would say broadly, it might get you a couple of eyes.
Once he I feel like once he graduates, it's fine.
Yeah,
If he's still in
I-
high school, I'm like,
Because I mean, it's like one of those things of like, I mean, at least in my college experience, I saw seniors dating freshmen, and it's
right.
definitely that thing of like, you go, oh word, and maybe you keep an eye on it just to see like, this isn't like untoward, is it? But like,
it's
if it passes,
weird because like
if it passes the sniff test, then by all
Mhm.
means, I guess.
it's weird because mathematically it seems okay, probably,
Right.
but like
It's just the
place you are in your life,
They're a high schooler, yeah.
yeah, the
I mean,
place
yeah,
you are
it's-
in life at that point is very different.
Right. I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, at its face, obviously, it is legal, right? Like, I guess that's like,
Sure.
I don't know what Japan's like laws are, but last year of high
Yeah.
school almost guarantees you're like 17 or 18, right? So,
Right.
Mhm.
I don't think that is the question that is to be asked, right? I think it's definitely more the like unspoken social contract of it,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Like,
Yeah. That's what I'm saying,
like
yeah.
it's like mentally, right? It's like where's this kid at?
It's just weird how like big a difference that makes between like, even if she was like a first year in college or something, I don't know, just mentally.
It's funny, right? Yeah, it's like I think it's
Yeah.
because like regardless of how many years of a difference that is, it's more about like how much you are learning and experiencing and changing in
Yeah.
those like specific 3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like most people kind of become very different people by the end of college, right? And it's like that's only 4 or 5 years, but like that is enough to like dramatically change a person.
Yeah. Well, I'll just
Yeah.
throw in one more of my other favorite jokes was they do the classic she runs into her ex-boyfriend at one of the game meetups, right? And
Uh-huh.
she's like, "Hey, hot guy, pretend to be my boyfriend."
Uh-huh.
And
To
he's-
her ex or to
to
Yamada?
her to Yamada, so that her ex will be jealous, classic.
Right.
Mhm.
okay.
Classic.
And he's not jealous because she's dating a hot guy, but she's
But
jealous
she's dating a
because
pro gamer.
apparently his favorite pro gamers.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. It's like, damn.
like-
I didn't know you started dating Daigo Umahara.
Right, yeah, or whatever
Just
your
roll
favorite
through.
streamer is, or whatever, right? Yeah.
Moving up in the world.
But it was just funny because it's like it's the
Right.
same net effect, but
yes,
Mhm.
yes, exactly.
you kind of have that video game flavor on it. So
Right, because I mean, usually it's more like, oh, I'm gonna spite my ex by bringing somebody who's handsome or looks rich or like has a
Yeah.
successful job. And
which
instead
he,
it's like,
he has
nah,
all those
dude,
things
he's-
too, but
but
Then you
but-
bring like their favorite TikTok influencer or whatever.
yeah,
Right.
no, his ELO rating is off the charts.
yeah,
Christ.
he's got a real big ELO. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, that show's fun. I'm enjoying it. Let's move on to another fun show that I'm enjoying.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Skip and Loafer.
Yeah.
Iroh, you watched at least the first episode of this,
I
right?
watched the first episode of this, and I thought it was cute, and then I said, all right, that was enough of that.
Okay.
I'm good.
Well, I did
because it was very, very cute, right? I was just like, yep, this seems perfectly good, and seems like it has no problems.
But where's the hard-hitting workplace commentary?
Whoa.
Okay, yeah. So this is the somewhat rare adaptation for PA Works. We're used to them doing their original working women shows, right?
Kongming earlier.
Yeah, that was fairly. Yeah. But if you look at their track record, it's maybe like 1 out of every 5 shows they do or something is an adaptation. So, and the story is about this girl from the country who goes to high school in Tokyo because she's very ambitious. She wants to be like the prime minister or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, all fired up and super confident.
Go get her.
And, we find out she's a normal human being.
Yep. She goes to school in Tokyo and is overwhelmed by city life.
Yes. There's some really great bits of her, like, she ends up getting to school late because she can't figure out the trains or whatever, and but
also she's meant to do the speech.
But she's supposed to do the speech for the opening ceremony, and when she gets there, she's so nervous that she just gets on the stage and starts talking, gives her entire speech to the principal.
She forgot. She forgot the speech.
She forgot her notes. So but she hasn't memorized. But she's so nervous that she just gets up and gives the entire speech with like her back to the stage. And nobody says anything. Like the teacher, like it's some good like deadpan,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
But
yes, she's fade off
deadpan
in the audience. Yeah.
There's some good deadpan audience and like the principal just standing there staring at her and nobody wanting to say anything. So she has a lot of.
And she immediately steps off stage and stress vomits all over the teacher.
Yes. So, and then the other aspect of this is she meets this other hot guy who is a like textbook definition himbo. They even call him himbo at some point in the
a lot of that in this season, huh?
A lot of that going around this season, and he's this hot guy who's kind of laid back and easygoing and really nice to everybody. And so
she is not socially ostracized is because she's friends with him, and so everyone.
Yes. So he seems to have taken a liking to her. So everybody is like, oh well, maybe she's all right, or I'm going to use her to get to this guy so I can date him.
I don't know if that's the message you should send in your slice of life show is worried about fitting in? Befriend your betters.
Well, the way it happens is natural enough that
I know. No, I'm sure it's genuine. It's just like the unspoken thing is, if she didn't befriend the hot guy, she would have been bullied and ostracized.
Yeah, because they were calling her like the puker or whatever. Yeah.
Oh man.
But so ultimately it's kind of a nice people being nice to each other for the most part show. You do have like the one kind of bitchy girl who's like trying to manipulate everybody to get to the main guy, but even she's mostly painted in a sympathetic light as the episodes go on. I do like that in this show, what's different is most of those kinds of shows are like super laid back, and the show does have some energy to it. Like I don't feel like it's dragging or I feel bored watching it. Whereas a lot of those other shows, there's a lot of like, I don't know, dead space because they're like a little too chill. And I think because like the driving force is this main girl who's actually, very ambitious and has a lot of energy, it drives the show a little bit more. And as the episodes have gone on, as I think we're 3 episodes in, they've introduced like more cast members to kind of fill in more space, and everybody kind of has their own agendas and things that they're concerned about that they kind of mix in, which is all resolved by everybody just being nice to each other. But
of course,
interestingly, I guess they kind of reveal the main guy's like quote unquote secret by episode 3, where he used to be like child actor or something like that. A lot of that going around this season too.
Yeah, a lot of that going around this season too, huh?
Yeah.
And you know, perhaps his nice guy persona is hiding some kind of pain
learned behavior from showbiz, right?
A darkness that lurks beneath.
Yeah, because it's interesting. I've noticed they do the thing where you kind of hear everybody's thoughts in the show except his. Okay. So like the new characters that come in, like, you know, you'll hear their inner monologues here and there, and what there's, you know, what's bugging them and why they feel like they're social outcasts or whatever, and you know, and that'll get resolved throughout the course of the episode. And we have not heard any of his thoughts. He's just like a wall so far. So that's kind of what they're setting up. But yeah, overall though, it's a lot of fun. I will shout out the opening. Has some really good dancing in it. Yes, it's really good. Always sucker for a dancing OP. Yeah, it looks great. I mean, PA Works, you know, they're one of the best, so looks great, and it's just another fun show. All right, well, I really stacked up these cute shows at the beginning. Cute show hour. I did. I put them in like order of air date and didn't realize what I'm getting myself into. Oh, see, I put when I put something else in this list, I just stuck it in the middle where I felt like it would be a good place to put it. But well, anyway, let's talk about Too Cute Crisis. Okay, I'm not still watching this show, but I wanted to talk about it because I do think people may enjoy the show, and perhaps in lesser seasons I would have continued watching it. But
how cute is this crisis?
Yeah, I just ain't got time for this one. But I want to put it out there because I love the premise, and again, I think there are people may enjoy this. But the premise of the show is there is this team of alien researchers, and by alien I mean they're not from Earth; they otherwise look completely human.
Fine.
And do they have blue skin?
No, they're completely human. And their leader is an anime lady, and they arrive at Earth, and she scans the planet, and she's like, well, this planet's too primitive, let's just nuke it and take whatever we can.
Sounds about right.
And so somebody's like, no, wait, we got to do this properly, just go down there and check it out and see what's up, and then we'll nuke it. So she goes down, and she's walking around present day Tokyo, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to kill all these people. And until she happens to stumble upon a cat cafe.
Of course.
And they're just so cute.
And in all her exploring...
Practically a crisis.
Yes. And so in all her exploring the galaxy, she has seen nothing as cute as a cat. And she starts freaking out. There's a lot of... as she's like... of course. Sees as the cats continue to do cute things. And she decides, well, maybe I should, spend some more time researching the cute animals of Earth. They talk about dogs and a couple other animals here and there, so it's not. I don't think it's just going to be just cats, but
sure,
various cute animals, cute creatures.
Man, I got two things to say about this premise. A, can you imagine how much of a bullet we as the collective human race dodged that she chose to land in Tokyo of all the possible locations on planet Earth?
Land in fucking, I don't know, like Wichita, Kansas, or something.
Yeah, fucking Iowa or some shit. Like,
yeah,
where they're burning books and shit. I don't know, man. Also, like, secondary. I mean, it's not enough to just merely land in a clean urban city where people seemingly respect the sanctity of human life, but it's a good thing I guess by the way you're describing it, Gels, it's a good thing she met like the cute and receptive kitty cats instead of the mean aloof ones.
Yes, because cats can be putting the fate of humanity in the hands of a cat is a dangerous.
That's a dangerous play.
Dangerous game, but yeah,
that could have gone one of two ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing kind of holding this back, obviously the joke gets old very quick.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But there is room, and I didn't watch more, so I don't know if they go anywhere with this. There was room to work with the ruthless alien angle. So for example, the best joke in episode 1 is she kind of befriends there's a man and a woman that work at the cat cafe, and she kind of becomes friends with them for a bit, and they're walking home, and they see, the classic abandoned cat in a box in the rain on the side of the road. And she uses her science magic to like analyze what happened to the cat and fix him up and everything, and she can also like use the traces of time or whatever there to trace back what happened to the cat, and she traces it back to find
throwing rocks at it or something.
No, she traces back and sees this scene of like this couple at their house with the cat meowing, and they're like, I can't stand it anymore, get rid of that cat, or
no. Seeing the ugly truth of the human race.
Yeah,
and she instantly, without hesitation, like within a second, calls down an orbital strike on their house.
Oh my god.
Okay, like a little
just like without hesitation, like hard cut from this flashback to their house exploding as laser shoots down from the sky. I'm like, okay,
not bad.
If we get some more of that could be pretty good. But I think unfortunately that's going to be like 90% of her going when she sees a cute animal, and then you might get like one joke like that.
The really good joke to play would be to play up the alien angle of like having completely different cultural values, right? And so like, it's like, oh, she's meeting a cat and a dog, which are like animals that we traditionally associate with being cute, right? And then I don't know, it should be like the joke is like then she meets like a I don't know, like a Komodo dragon or something. And everyone's like, oh my god, like stay away, that's like
running away, that's that bear
and then she's like, oh my god, like I had one of these growing up as a kid or something.
The cutest one yet. Yeah.
They do actually have kind of a similar joke where when she sees the cats, she's comparing it to what she has previously known as the cutest animals, and they're like these horrible abominations.
All right, that's pretty good.
So they do kind of play into that joke a little bit, but yeah, I think that's where the good jokes are at, and not just the like, oh my god,
wow,
cat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's like cooing over cats. I mean, we've all done it on YouTube before, but it can only really take you so far.
Exactly. So anyway,
I got some capybaras in there.
Yeah.
Well,
so
speaking of cute animals,
let's move on to Pokemon. Horizons.
Pokemon Horizons, which is the new Ashless Pokemon show. Ash is been put out to pasture, sent to the farm upstate.
Oh, he's been sent to Professor Oak.
Yeah, he's been sent to Professor Oak's lab. And so it's a brand new show with brand new protagonists. And so there's the first couple episodes have been about the female of the two protagonists, Oliko, whose whole deal is she's from the area from Scarlet and Violet, and has
latest
been sent
game.
off. Yep, has been sent off to boarding school in Kanto, aka the land of the original Pokemon games, which I as a person who's played Pokemon since the beginning, I'm a little weirded out by the idea of there's a bus route on this route from the game that goes between the Pokemon Lake and Viridian City that takes you to a boarding school. I'm like, there are buses in Pokemon? That's weird.
There's infrastructure.
I know, right?
Pokemon.
I know.
Yeah, don't you have to have a Pokemon fly you?
Exactly.
Thing
so, but she goes to this boarding school where all the new students are handed a starter Pokemon.
Of course,
she gets the little grass cat from Paldea.
Oh, Weed Cat,
the new Pokemon.
Weed Cat.
Yep.
Oh, love Weed Cat.
And she also has a mysterious pendant from her grandmother as a MacGuffin, and so the bad people come to try and take the pendant, and also the good people come to try and protect her, and stuff happens, and she gets onto their airship and is no longer at boarding school, and everyone's okay with this.
Oh, okay. That shifted pretty quickly. I was like, okay, sure, like school adventures. Never mind.
Nope, she's on this little airship with the Rising Volt Tacklers.
That's their name,
Captain Pikachu and some other folks. while the bad people are after her gem, right?
Is the captain literally a Pikachu?
There's Captain Pikachu. It's a little Pikachu wearing a captain's cap.
Of course.
Okay, that's pretty good. Okay.
It knows Thunder Punch.
Oh, that's
weird.
Suboptimal. But, yeah,
I know,
sure.
They have to differentiate its main moves from Ash's Pikachu, don't you know?
Shit, you're right. Yeah,
it can't just use Thunderbolt and Iron Tail anymore. It's got to use Thunder Punch and Double Team.
Of course.
Very different. My hope is, because there are some dudes on the airship, right? That seem to be part of the main crew.
Sure.
So you got your mechanic lady in the engine room shoveling coal off of that coal Pokemon from a while back.
Wait, it is a coal-powered airship?
I know. They've just got a Colossal or whatever on a hamster wheel. Just
Eero, is Pokemon steampunk?
Whoa, no, God.
It's a coal-powered ship.
I know, it's really goofy. She's just shoveling coal onto a slug butt in an engine.
Oh,
right?
Goodness.
There's a chef guy, a big burly chef man,
of course,
and there's a medical officer who looks like and also might just be. I'm just gonna.
Is that the Pokemon?
No, she's
not.
Oh, great audio. I'm posting an image of her in.
Okay, a lady. We were describing a lady with a pink bob haircut.
She's got pink hair. She's got a jacket.
Yeah.
Stockings and shoes and stuff. But she's totally a Nurse Joy who dropped out of med school, right?
Oh shit! I can see it now.
There's a Chansey on the back of her jacket. She's got a Chansey on the ship.
Yeah, you got
Nurse Joy, right?
Yeah. Like in episode 43, her driver's license is gonna fall out of her pocket, and it's gonna be what's her first name?
It's Molly.
It's gonna be Molly Joy.
I know, right? It's so funny. Yeah, I mean, it seems cute so far. It's Pokemon.
Sure.
Pokemon's pretty known quantity, right?
Yeah, I guess the question is do you see this having is this going to be the status quo of the Pokemon TV anime for the next 10 years? Or is this another step on the road as they work towards figuring out what the Pokemon anime is in a post-Ash Ketchum world?
I could see this being a situation I suppose like Digimon, where it's just they can run this for, I don't know, let's say 100 episodes or so.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And
get a feel
for get a feel for how people like these characters, right? And then it would be easy enough to call it and introduce a new cast, or to keep going with this cast, right?
Sure.
The other protagonist, Roy, has yet to appear in what I've seen.
Oh. Okay, well,
I've seen 2 episodes. The next episode preview doesn't show him for episode 3, which is goofy because he has been billed as the other protagonist, right? But
I mean, I can kind of appreciate that, honestly. Because
I can appreciate it, but I think it's funny.
Yeah, because I would say broadly, even in 2023, I'd say Pokemon is still broadly associated as a young boys franchise, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of just that's just the brush gets painted with, right? And I would say that if you were looking at if you were a fly on the wall of the Pokemon companies boardroom meetings, that is probably broadly what they are aiming at.
Yeah,
and so to have the female protagonist appear first and give her a few episodes on her own to establish her, before introducing the more, what I suspect is the more conventional Pokemon protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm saying is it's an interesting choice. I think maybe it speaks to yes, the more broad, all age, all gender approach that Pokemon has most likely been pursuing more intentionally in the last few years.
Yeah. And I mean,
at the end of the day, is it really that different as far as?
The thing is that no, it's not, right?
Yeah.
It's just Ash has been there for 25 years or whatever.
Right.
And so it feels weird.
Right. But as far as like the structure of how every episode goes and everything,
like they're on an airship, which means like the previous season of Pokemon, they can just go wherever the heck they want, whenever, and do episodic goofy stuff. All right, I'm sure we'll chase the secret of the pendant for however many episodes until we don't need to anymore.
Until Lucario shows up.
Right.
Like, I mean, thanks for holding on to my pendant.
The mysterious pendant, she's falling off of a roof in the first episode or whatever, and it glows, and a mysterious Pokemon saves her, and it's definitely a Pokemon from like the second wave of DLC for Scarlet and Violet that has yet to released, right?
Sure. Okay.
It's like
a new OC Pokemon.
It's a little turtle thing.
Okay, I thought it was gonna be another another like Zoro arc or something, some blatant like we know Lucario's popular, so we're just gonna try to recreate Lucario every generation.
Yeah.
No,
that'll be in the movies.
Of course.
It's this like crystal turtle looking thingamajig.
Sure.
Turtles are cool.
Yeah, turtles are cool. Yeah,
all right.
It seems cute. I'll keep an eye on it until something crazy happens.
Sure.
I'm sure something will happen eventually that makes me go, "Oh, that's crazy." But
damn, can't believe they shot Captain Pikachu dead on screen.
I know, right? Hey, man, it's like that. They had the whole episode Sun and Moon where the old Stoutland that lived under the bridge just fucking dies.
Jesus
Christ! All right. I think on that note,
Nurse Joy shakes her head. Ash, it's like there's nothing we can do. And then Litten has to practice Fire Fang, during the storm until it gets it right. At which point the clouds part to show Stoutland in the clouds looking down upon his protege.
Maybe that's what they'll do with Molly Joy, right? They'll explain that the reason why she dropped out of medical school is because of the rising costs in college tuition.
She dropped out of medical school because Brock wouldn't stop hounding her.
Oh my!
All right. I need to shut this down before we get into our.
It's time to finally cancel Brock once and for all.
Oh God. All right. Well,
tell us about the next one on the list.
Yes.
Jill.
Glad to hear Pokemon still trucking.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for giving me a break before I have to talk about another one of these shows. Let's talk about Insomniacs After School. This is the one in the
Night Gaiden.
This is the one in the preview show that you all said this is going to be my show, and I understand why. However, I didn't really like it that much.
You hate to see it.
It's Iro, you mentioned Call of the Night. I think that's a fair comparison because I think the things I would want out of this show, Call of the Night did much better.
Okay, then.
So before I get into that, the premise is there's this nerdy antisocial kid in high school that is a total jerk and everyone hates him. And
now he's been summoned to another world, and even though
no,
class
and
kicks
the
him out,
reason
he's the strongest one.
No, and the reason is entirely because he has insomnia.
Okay,
nothing to do with his own.
Insomnia's a real bitch. Let's be clear.
Yes, really, truly.
As someone who's had insomnia as long as I can remember, it messes you up, but. Clearly, this is the only reason why he's a terrible person and nothing to do with his own personal shortcomings.
Sometimes the kids just got bad vibes.
Yeah. And, he one day he is trying to help out with the school festival and he's just so tired that when they tell him to go get some boxes up on the roof, he goes into... Apparently, this school has an abandoned observatory.
Okay.
As you do.
Yeah.
And... he goes up there to take a nap, but he finds there's already another person there who is a cute girl taking a nap because after he's literally went on an entire inner monologue about why am I the only person that suffers from insomnia, which he says almost word for word. He has now found another person that also suffers from insomnia, and she's a cute, nice girl that is willing to hang out with him.
Wow, we can be insomniacs together.
And
after school.
yes, and
yeah, there we go.
They decide that they're gonna like revive the astronomy club or whatever,
Insomniac club,
because they can do something at night when they can't sleep. And his reward for being a jerk is he gets a cute girlfriend. And I don't know, it was just like, it was fine, but it was like, if we bring it back around to the comparison to Call of the Night, this show is obviously much more down to earth type of realistic presentation, and that's fine, but it's also like kind of boring.
I mean, that could be true, right? Like, this is
right, yeah,
like you were just talking about Skip and Loafer earlier, right? And it's like you could be inoffensive, you can be light, right? You can be easygoing, but fiction is entertainment, right? And on some level, you still need to be getting something meaningful out of it. Yeah.
And so this show does. So you combine that with the fact that, as you can tell, I don't really like the main guy at all.
Right.
he chills out a little bit as the episode goes on. So I didn't really have a problem with him by the end of the episode. He was tolerable, so I was like, that's fine. But I'm gonna need a little more than that. Like if you're gonna take your show, and base it entirely on two people hanging out at night, you got to really make them compelling characters, right? And I will say, I will say I like the girl. Like, she kind of has like this. She's somehow both the kind of playful Genki girl type, but low energy somehow. I don't know how to explain it. It's an interesting
like
combination.
Almost.
I can imagine. I can see it. Yeah. I mean,
so I like her. She was fun. The main guy, like I said, not wild about him. But when that's like your core of your show, it's like, that's really, I think you got to really like what's going on. And I was just not really into it. And so again, comparing to Call of the Night, so to refresh everybody's memory, that was also about this kid who has insomnia, and he ends up wandering around town. But in his case, he meets a vampire lady, and it's much crazier. But like, even with that show, even the presentation and how they both of them try to depict like the Call of the Night, if you will. Like the allure of being up in the middle of the night while everyone's sleeping, and that show had almost like a surreal depiction of it that was like really taking advantage of this being animated and the visual medium. And
with something when you include like supernatural or like genre elements, like you can sort of use that sort of outsized, unrealistic, supernatural side of it to like highlight your points more effectively by making them bigger or metaphorically, attached to each other, compared to, we're in high school and we have insomnia, and it's like, if you want to hit like a similar like emotional height, I suppose, like you need to drill deeper than, I think, if it's like a very totally grounded setting, like you need to drill deeper into like the specificity of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
If like you have vampires and stuff as like your metaphor for the Call of the Night, etc., like you can use that to push the theme.
Yeah. And I'm just generally gonna find that more interesting, right? Because that's like more creative and whatever. But I will say I appreciated whoever wrote this clearly deals with insomnia, because there were some just very specific conversations that happened. Like the very opening scene of the show is the main kid listening to some kind of boring podcast or something on YouTube while on his phone while he's trying to sleep.
Oh yeah.
I'm like that spoke to my soul. And they talk about later how, like, I don't know, like when you're really tired and trying to get stuff done and not show that you're really tired during the day.
Oh man.
Oh,
yeah.
And you don't want people to be like, man, what's wrong with you or whatever. You're just trying to like act like everything's normal, even though like you're taking every ounce of your strength to stay awake right now. That kind of feeling. So
on tape.
Points for accurate depictions of insomnia, aside from them making you a horrible person, or maybe I'm a horrible person that I don't realize it. But yeah, other than that, though, I just didn't feel like there was enough going on here. I will say I could see this working better as a manga, where you just can take the panels at your own pace and everything. And
I do wonder if that is what is happening here. Right?
Fill in this. I mean, fill in the spaces with your imagination more than just like, what's presented to you or whatever.
Right.
It's hard to explain, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, pacing is a big thing in adaptations, right? Like how you pace the events of the source material has a very, very real material effect on your perception of the work. I mean, like I
imagine. Yeah, go ahead.
Because like I can't speak to the source material. I have not read it. I am familiar with this author, one of this author's other works, which I did broadly enjoy. Okay. But like, I mean, it's the one about the tall girl. But
that's right.
But also by the same author. And I mean, what I recall of that one is that it was also fairly laid back and sort of deliberately paced, right? And I wonder if that's just like one of those things that like it reads way better in manga, and like to put it in anime form would require more ambitious adapting, I guess.
Do you need like 4 episodes in one to really make the adaptation work?
Right, maybe it's something like that, right? But
we'll get to that.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like I'm not saying it's bad. Like it's very well made. It wasn't doing enough to push it over the top. So, and I got a lot of those shows to watch this season.
We look, Jell, we get it. You like evil women, and there were not enough in Insomniacs.
Insomnia doesn't make you evil enough.
This girl is not nearly problematic enough for me. Yeah. All right. Let's move along.
Sure. Let's go to another pretty laid back show.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about the Marginal Service, and you guys are gonna have to tell me what's the deal with this one.
All right. So
go ahead.
Okay, so we watched the first 2 episodes of the Marginal Service, which is all that's out at the moment. So now we have a better idea of what this show actually is about, and it is it's Men in Black, right? It's supernatural crime fighters. It's the main character, Brian Knight Raider, was a cop who had a black partner named Danny Grab, who was killed in the line of duty during a drug bust gone bad, and hands in his gun and his badge. Actually, just his badge. He stole his gun, which pretty good actually. And through circumstances ends up joining the Marginal Service, which is a UN-led alien immigration task force. It turns out that the Marginal Service is also an immigration parable. We find out that there's a lot of Japan is currently undergoing some sort of vague immigrant refugee crisis, that there are protests about letting too many of these people into the country. And at the same time, a different type of illegal alien is also crossing our borders. The Borderlanders, who are aliens who can disguise as humans, and they're pushing drugs onto our streets.
All manner of kappa and Bigfoots and yokai are pushing drugs and causing problems.
No, Iro, you've missed a key detail. Well, I mean, I don't know if this is actually what's going to be, but you've missed a key detail here, which is the aliens are the drug pushers.
Oh,
and the good Borderlands who are defending us from the alien drug dealers are the native yokai of planet Earth.
I I don't like where this is going.
You're right.
So you got the Kappa and Bigfoot, and I think Mothman is there too.
Yeah, werewolf, Wolfman, like
the Marginal Service is it's what Eero and I have said about the shows. It is currently on probation.
yeah.
It is a show that I am extremely ready to just write off and never look back.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like 3 to 5 minutes of like really good anime dumbassery at the end of both of the episodes we've watched.
Yes.
Okay.
Where like the first 15 minutes is like kind of dreadful and boring and
yeah,
like very like by the numbers to the point where I was basically ready to stop watching. And then at the end of episode 1, when they finally introduce the eponymous Marginal Service, they get introduced one by one by name. They get a title card, as in like a flash, like a special screen with their name and their face on it.
As last seen in Akudama Drive that I can remember.
Yes, and they get a King of Fighters-esque announcer saying their name.
Okay.
So it's like
introducing
that cadence, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Introducing
Bolts Dexter.
It's Lyra Candy Heart.
Okay, so all right. So on the one hand, I mean, is anti-immigration rhetoric really all that bad when you have
cool announcer?
I got some real. I got some really Super Sentai vibes from some of that because
like extremely low rent Super Sentai.
Yeah, because like Super Sentai,
that's the best kind, right?
Super Sentai already pretty low rent, but Sentai loves to just mash shit together with no rhyme or reason. Like, I don't know, a couple of years ago, Kira Major was like, vehicles and gems. And so this is like immigration department and construction workers, right? It's like, how does this fit together at all? It doesn't. Who cares?
They have like construction themed weaponry that look like cement mixers and traffic cones. They're wearing multicolored construction outfits, like coveralls with the yellow like Mega Man construction helmet,
the big flare pants. Like
they have their mascot, which is a Peck Desmond, who is also their PR officer, is a talking squirrel who looks like a early 2000s like platformers mascot that's trying to dethrone Mario. Like Peck Desmond
jumping at
some real Bubsy vibes.
Yeah. Like he looks he looks like he would be in like an early 2000s like video game like magazine ad where he's like standing on top of the corpses of like fake Mario and Sonic.
Arrow the Acrobat. I can do this.
Like those vibes, which is like pretty good because I don't know how a Japanese work of fiction somehow managed to independently arrive at the same style of character design.
Yeah.
But you can hear it in our voices. The last 5 minutes of that episode is pretty good. And then episode 2 happens, and it starts again. The first 15 minutes are really boring. It's really by the numbers. Like they're trying to like set up the character dynamic. Like, look at all these goofy guys. They don't get along. Workplace comedy. But when the chips are down, they get it done, right? And again, the last 5 minutes are really good because it's just a bunch of Arnold Schwarzenegger references in a row. Like,
okay.
Like
Predator, Commando.
Like they're going to like a jungle that exists in Japan to like find
the drug. To Aokigahara. Like there's a drug lab in the middle of Aokigahara.
Oh my god, it literally is Aokigahara. It's a drug lab at Aokigahara, but they explain that like because of the aliens that landed on Earth, it's like changed the ecology into like a tropical jungle. So like
just this one spot.
The big buff dude Bolts Dexter, like. When they crash, their helicopter crashes after getting hit by an RPG, immediately starts slathering mud on himself. And he's like, because this will reduce my heat signature. And it's like, do they even have heat vision?
I don't know.
They're
aliens. They must have.
Yeah, exactly, right? You know, like another character does the Billy, like he does the machete across his chest thing, you know, from Predator. There is just straight up a Commando reference at the end where, again, like Bolts Dexter walks up to the villain of the week who, let me be clear, the two have not met or spoken this entire episode, right? Like, so Bolts Dexter approaches the villain of the week and says, "Remember when I told you I killed you last?" And then the villain's like,
I've never met you before.
I've never met you. Who are you? And then he just continues. Bolts just continues. He says, "I lied," and then blasts him with a shotgun. It's like,
oh man,
there's an energy there, right? Like there totally is,
yeah.
but it just cannot keep it up consistently.
Is it worth putting up with all the other boring?
Right,
I'm not sure. Like, I'm really not sure, which is why you say the show is on probation. It might pull it together, but you know, Oh, and then we find out that the leader of the aliens is Japan's most popular pop idol, Rubber Suit. As in, his name is literally Rubber Suit.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Christ.
All right.
I'm reading here that the voice of the narration in episode 1 is one Eric Kelso, best known for being Paul Phoenix in Tekken.
Well, there you go. There's your fighting game connection.
And voicing Captain Falcon in F-Zero GX.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Perhaps that seems more appropriate. Yeah.
Man. So.
Okay. I mean, the parts you. the parts you told me about sound fun, but I don't know.
It's like at most 3 to 5 minutes of each episode. Like that's kind of the problem,
right?
Yeah.
It's like, and the rest of the time you're dealing with like almost. It's very. I say this derogatorily. It's really trying to be Marvel dialogue, kind of the way that the characters are sniping at each other. It's like I don't know. It's like you have the dude tries to go into the interrogation room from the guy from episode 1, and the two dudes they're so beat up, even though the guy being interrogated is tied down, and it's because they got into a fight with each other because they were arguing about something.
This is another Avengers 2012 ruined everything moment.
Kind of. It's like it's a little. It's trying to be too snappy, but in a very like what feels to me like a Western way.
Yeah,
the way
it feels like it's only in the last few minutes where it sort of rediscovers the like more like anime, spontaneous,
almost,
like anime energy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have you guys report in on that next time if it's still around or not, I guess. Okay. Let's move on. One more new show, and boy, is this one that I think we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Are you ready to give your first impressions on the first 5 episodes of Oshi no Ko?
Is it 5? Did I miss one?
Well, I mean, the first episode...
90 minutes is about 4 episodes, right?
It's about 4 episodes, right? Because every episode is about, average anime episode is like 20 minutes, right? 22 minutes?
I guess that is more 4 than 3.
24 minutes minus 3 minutes for the opening and ending.
Yeah, so a 90-minute premiere is closer to 4, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, all right, so yes, we are talking about Oshi no Ko. You guys rather thoroughly... You guys rather thoroughly covered this in the preview show, so I don't want to rehash the whole, everything, all the details, but...
I guess we give a quick rundown.
We'll give a quick recap of what this is
show about an idol who gets pregnant and gives birth to a couple of twins, both of whom actually are reincarnations of people who were like in some way closely involved with the idol in question.
Yeah,
have now reincarnated as her children,
and things go places from there. Again,
they sure do.
This is a hard show to talk about without ruining things, spoiling things.
I've not watched the premiere, but I've like heard people talk about the manga before the anime happened, right? And so it's like, don't they like investigate her murder or something?
I mean,
okay.
I guess we could just get right into it
then,
if we want to start there.
Yeah,
sorry,
so
I should just leave this to you.
It's not necessarily where I would have started talking about Oshi no Ko.
Yeah,
I'm just
I don't.
trying to call
I don't want
memories, right?
I don't want to spoil anything yet. Well, I think we will have. We're going to have to spoil things eventually, so we will get
eventually.
To that.
Yes,
but yes. So the premise is, and you guys talked about last time. The main character is basically her doctor, and he is murdered the night she gives birth and becomes reincarnated as one of the twin kids. Right. That's. I think it's funny because these sound like spoilers,
but this is like
these are like
one. Yeah,
this really
has
one. Yeah. So what I was just really fascinated by the premiere, which, as we noted, is 90 minutes long. It's basically a self-contained prologue movie, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I heard it aired in theaters in Japan.
Right.
Yeah. So and it covers those events, and like by the very last maybe 10 minutes you realize, oh, this is what the show really is, and not what we just watched for 90 minutes. And I kept thinking the whole way, the whole thing was fascinating to me because I kept thinking, did this have to be 90 minutes long? And I think the conclusion I came to was yes. Because here's how I ended up kind of my logic on it. I think most anime would have summed up this 90-minute prologue in a 5, maybe 10-minute flashback in the first episode.
Oh boy. And I don't know if you could do that.
And we would, and that would act, that acting as the main motivation for the main character.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We would say that show sucks because we're supposed to care about this, motive, whatever the main character said, and okay, but we don't care.
A show that tries to make us care by telling us
we don't care because we don't know what happened or what we just got. You told us,
invested, right?
We didn't have, and so Oshi no Ko takes the time to invest you in what happened in the what would normally be the big flashback, and so by the time that the big sort of inciting event happens at the end of the episode, you're like, oh yeah, I get it. I get why he's the way he is.
I'm reminded, you saying it, putting it this way, I'm reminded of Rakugo Shinju, right? Where basically the whole first season almost was a flashback.
Yes,
explaining why this character was the way they were.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. That's the most extreme example of what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because they spent an entire 12 episodes basically as a prologue to the second.
I mean, we didn't put it on the list today, but let me tell you about a show called Vinland Saga that also spent its entire first season technically being the prologue to the true story.
So yes, there's another extreme example.
It's been
of
done,
this.
but yeah, I legitimately feel like Oshi no Ko is a show that is entirely about its execution, of fighting back whatever initial instinct you might have about its premise. Mm-hmm. I think Oshi no Ko is the type of show where, I mean, I said as much in the podcast, right, in the preview. I was like, this sounds interesting, and I guess I might give it a shot, but I don't know if it's if it were not for Aqua fighting for it so hard, I don't know if it's. I mean, I wouldn't have watched it, I would not have bothered. I mean, this type of premise is repugnant to me.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the premise sounds like if you tell me that a gynecologist is reincarnated as his favorite idol's child, I'm thinking it's going to be like this pervy comedy thing.
I'm calling the cops.
Yeah, I'm calling the cops. Let me tell you, this show is not a comedy.
Not well.
There are light moments, and it's not like all completely, dour, whatever, like cynical. It's pretty cynical, but not entirely. Like there are lighter moments, and
I would call the show cynical without being
mean-spirited,
mean-spirited about it. Yes,
yeah, that's probably fair. And they, I will say they do sneak in some breastfeeding jokes, but
well, yes.
You just got at that point.
more than anything, this show is supposed to be like scathing critique of the entertainment industry, right? So like,
yes,
it is not like I would still consider it more of a drama than a comedy overall, even though there are some like goofy moments here and there, right?
yeah.
So, and it is certainly not like what, like you said, it fights completely against your initial concept of what that premise would be, right?
Oh, I mean, it makes you care about. I mean, it is a thing of like. I mean, it's not one-to-one because I think that like the show I'm about to mention arrives at its real story much sooner, but it sort of reminds me of Erased of all things.
I was thinking about that. Just
Like
based
Erased
on how people talk about this, right?
is also a story that initially makes you think it's going to be about one thing, then makes you realize it's about a second thing that you might groan at, and then quickly establishes in its second and third episode that actually this is worth it. Like this is worth
very
investing
important.
in.
Yeah.
And I feel like Oshi no Ko does something similar over the course of its 5 episodes. Like at most, I think like if you were like very aggressive, you could maybe cut out like 10 minutes out of this premiere. But I really do think that like this, like not to like beat a dead horse, but like this is sort of the thing we were complaining about with Trigun last season, right? Is that
right.
it wants us to care about these things, but it isn't willing to invest the time to make us care.
It just assumes you'll care because you're watching.
Right. Oshi no Ko understands like that like I Hoshino, so the titular she the idol, she is fine, but like I would not be invested in her personally if it were not for the fact that I watched like 80 minutes of this character living her life, firsthand, right? And
yeah.
I think where I now arrive with Oshi no Ko, and maybe we should get into a little bit of its second episode, is I think that the first episode ends with a very strong statement of intent, right? Like I broadly enjoyed most of the premiere, but I was not truly like locked in until like I realized what this story was really about, right? Like, this is not just a scathing critique of the entertainment industry. This is also now a murder mystery.
Yeah.
And I think where I stand with Oshi no Ko is, well, that's where I was locked in, right? I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. And then episode 2 starts, and we are back to the entertainment industry stuff, right? We now cut to Aquamarine and Ruby, grown up, they're teenagers, or in middle school, I think. And it's back to, Ruby wants to be an idol, and Aqua wants to solve the murder, but is doing so by
the most roundabout. The most like long roundabout way, indirect way possible,
right? And
involves getting a job in the entertainment industry or something.
Exactly,
yeah.
Right. So it's still we still arrive at the same point of both kids are going to be entering the entertainment industry, and it's like that thing of like, I don't mind that aspect of the show. In fact, I want this show to keep being a scathing critique of the entertainment industry. But now that you have sold me on the other half of what you purport this show to be,
right?
Damn, I need to see some more of that, And
so I think I'm in the same boat, G, where the first, we'll just keep calling it the first episode for the sake of continuity,
for clarity. Yeah.
Yes, the first episode is. I described it as the most ambitious thing Doga Kobo has ever done.
Without a doubt,
saying that.
Yeah.
It's very ambitious, cinematic. It's big emotional gut punches. There's a lot going on. It's even though it's 90 minutes, it's still moving pretty quick. Like we cover like 10 plus years of time, right? So, over maybe more, maybe 20 actually, if we could go all the way back. We cover a pretty big period of time. And when you get to episode 2, it feels like a normal anime, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, no, I get you.
If we go back to my kind of example earlier, episode 2 feels like the episode 1 of the lesser anime where you would just inject that 5-minute flashback into it.
Yeah.
But what happens in the episode still feels very like conventional, predictable, like exactly what you would expect from this type of anime or whatever. The main guy, he's super smart, and he's kind of
Aloof.
I don't know, mean, aloof. Yes,
He's kind of a shithead. I mean, I'm fine with saying that. I mean, I'll be real. I mean, I have to remember that he's not a kid, that he is an adult mentally, and judge him accordingly. Because,
I think. Yeah, go ahead.
There's like a segment in the second episode that, I mean, look, I'm gonna be real. I'll admit I'm speaking from personal experience here. I'm shooting from the heart on this one. I did not love, but then I remember, okay, but also this is an adult man, so this makes sense. I do not love his rather mean-spirited response to the director trying to give advice about, like, one's path in life, right? Like you think the director is about to give the classic, like, it's never too late to start over speech, right? Because he's talking about how, like, whether you're 20 or 30 or 40, like, you can always, like, failure is a part of being an adult, and, like, it's though they don't define you, right?
Yeah.
But then they also make it very clear that the director, the film director in question, who does appear in the first episode, and has now taken Aquamarine under his wing, is also, like, he's a director, and he seems to be a decently successful film director, but also he still lives with his mom, right? He still lives in his family home, right? And it's kind of used as, like, it's meant to invalidate his advice, basically. Like,
right.
Like Aquamarine even literally says, like, this advice sure rings hollow from a loser who still lives with his mom, And it's like, I mean, not wrong, but also, come on, dude. Like, you think it's easy being an artist, doing art for a living?
Right.
But again, this is a medical professional from a STEM profession.
Yeah.
And I have to remember that, of course a doctor would look down on an artist, right? Like, of course a medical practitioner would look down on arts.
I think at this point, like, mentally, he's probably almost the same age, right? Like, because another 10 years has gone by since the beginning. So if a dude who's like, if I'm, 40, whatever, and the dude that's a year older than me is trying to give me life advice, I'm going to be a little skeptical.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, there's that. I also think, as we're kind of, I hate to get heavy into the negative stuff, because I think I'm overall positive on everything that's happened, but there's definitely some things that are holding it back for me, just being like, oh, this is amazing, anime of the year, whatever. So this is written by Akasaka. I think if I'm saying that correctly, I have the right amount of Akas in there, but who is most known as the writer of Kaguya-sama Love is War.
Right.
And I think these stretch of nearly 5 episode length of dialogue has made me realize he's probably better at writing comedy than serious dialogue.
I would agree.
There's a lot of long monologues of people saying things that real human beings don't say. Like, real human beings don't talk. Like, a lot of talking. If you did not tell me that this was a manga, I would think it was a novel or light novel adaptation, because there's just a lot of
there's a specific wordiness to it.
Yeah, it's like, we're not talking like Nisio Eisen tier, but like it's in that neighborhood a little bit. Like, maybe it's like Nisio Eisen suburbs. I don't know, but
the same like, neighborhood.
It's the same, like, and again, not nearly as like up its own ass, but like,
right.
What they're saying is still like believable and accurate to the human experience, let's say, but they're not talking like people would talk, right? Right. So, and if I look back on Kaguya-sama, when they do get serious, it's the same type of writing, but those moments are kind of few and far between, right? So, like, you don't really notice it as much.
And like,
but when you have to watch 90,
right? Assuming
when you have to watch like
everything's so overblown already that having
Yeah,
someone
so when
melodramatic
you have
dialogue. Yeah.
right, so when you have your one melodramatic dialogue moment, it's fine. But when like most of your dialogue is like that, and it's not unbearable or anything, it just in some ways like I didn't love that part of it.
I
but
mean, I totally agree with you, Jill, and I feel like it all actually centers back on one character, right? It's Aquamarine, right? Like it's
yes, because he's our main perspective character.
He is our main
right?
perspective, and he is the dour, cynical, serious one. And I think that, like, in a lot of ways, he sort of ends up becoming, like, his personality is sensible when you think about his circumstances, but also, I feel like, yes, the story's greatest flaws, I feel like, exist in his orbit, and I feel like that's a very careful balance you have to establish, because, like, for example, like, something we find out in the second episode is it turns out that Aquamarine, the male twin of the two, has basically been secretly sabotaging his sister's like
her idol career.
Yikes.
Idol career, like
so
years now.
So his thing is like he's apparently naturally a good actor or something, right? And so he uses his acting skills to pose as like the casting director or whatever, and call her and say you didn't get the job or whatever, because he doesn't want her to follow in her mother's footsteps as an idol.
Because like the idol industry is bad, or
yes, and it did not go well for her. Are we in spoiler territory now?
Yeah.
Or I mean,
all right, we might as well. I mean, I already called this show a murder mystery. Also, Ira said the thing he did at the very beginning of all this. So.
I thought my understanding is that was
yeah,
that's just the stuff I'd heard about this series.
I would say that part is not well known, or it is not common knowledge.
My mistake.
Yeah. So spoiler alerts, everyone. Pause to skip if you like. Their mother gets murdered at the end of the first episode, and that becomes sort of the inciting event for Aqua to basically devote the rest of his life to finding. He suspects their real father is behind it, who we have not met, and so his mission is now to find their real father and kill them with his own hands. And when and again, because they took the time to build it up, when that moment happens, they're like, yeah, no, that checks out.
Fair play.
Let's go.
Killed my favorite idol, who was also my mob.
And so that part's good. It's just like when we again get to episode 2, I feel like, well, I guess also she gets murdered when they're like maybe at most 5 years old or something, right?
Young, very young.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years old, right? And then so there's time to cool down, right? Because he has to have 10 years to grow up, right? And then when episode 2 starts, they're now teenagers, and there's been some time to cool down, I guess. And I don't know, but yeah, I hope the show did not peak too early.
Yeah, that is very much my fear.
That's my summary, because the first episode is so like intense and like powerful, and I did not get that same energy in episode 2, and it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while to build that back up, I think. Which,
think so.
If we've got a whole season, I don't know how the episodes are going to pan out, how much they're counting the first episode in the runtime, but like if we got another, 8 to 10 episodes to flesh things out, I think there's a lot of potential there.
For sure. And, I think before we move on from this show, I mean, we just got to shout it out, man. You ever hear an OP so good?
Yo, the OP slaps.
Dude, fucking leave it to Yoasabi. Yoasabi also did the first Witch from Mercury OP, also did the Beastars ED and OP, yes.
Season 2, just
a stone cold killer when it comes to anime intros. And you ever hear an OP so good you decide to implicitly trust a show site. I mean, I'll be straight up, like, like we talk about like the strength of like editing and like all that shit. The end of the first episode leading into the OP
Yes.
is a really strong moment.
Yeah, that alone just sells you, like,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Also, maybe it's just my monkey brain neuron activation meme, but you put Yoasabi vocals on top of a, like, sort of rap trap adjacent beat,
Yep.
and I become the neuron activated monkey. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's music.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be two in this podcast. There's gonna be two incidents of total G catnip. That's one of them, and then the other is gonna be the events of Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury. This
yeah,
week.
baby, we're getting to that later.
We'll get into that later. But yeah, so again, I just hope this show did not peak too early and can live up to the ambition of the first episode. And the one last thing that I did not really mention. Dogakobo, when they're at their A game top talent, they are up there with everybody.
They do great work when they're not making like horrible lolicon bait.
Yes,
it's really nice to see Dogakobo using their powers for good for once.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Yeah,
they've used their powers for good, and just nice to see them making something so ambitious that finally is like taking advantage of their talents. So all right, enough of these pretenders to the throne here. Let's talk about the real queen of spring 2023 season, perhaps all of 2023, or maybe even all time. Let's talk about Birdie Wing Golf Girl's story.
Venus Line.
It's happening.
They laid it all out there in these past couple episodes.
Yeah.
I have to say some of these things out loud. So we wrapped up the golf tournament at the end, which I have to mention one of my personal favorite moments in this block of episodes. As we're approaching the end of the tournament, Aoi is feeling a little inadequate as she has some kind of mysterious golf disease, and also, Eve is playing like 1% better than her. So she gets some coaching from Coach Amuro, in which he shows her a swing one time and begins glowing with spiritual energy, and Aoi stands there with her arms outstretched, palms forward, arms outstretched, as she receives the holy blessing of this new golf swing, which she only has to see once because it's in her DNA. It's in her soul.
It's her one true authentic swing.
It's her one true authentic swing, and so she gets her power up so she can keep pace with Eve.
This is her true inheritance.
Yeah.
Yes. And God, just the image of her,
it's like Goku to accept his Saiyan blood to allow him to defeat Frieza.
Yeah. So that was great. But she still has the golf disease, so she can only get like one good shot in, right?
Yeah.
And then it's all Eve has to end it now because Aoi won't be able to take the next shot, and so Eve is forced to use the orange bullet again. And
which unlocks the hidden memories.
As we know, the orange bullet, as we learned from In the Zone, the orange bullet this puts a great mental strain on the user, and we've already seen that this shakes up Eve's brain so that she starts to remember the things that she forgot when she got amnesia. And this time, as she uses the orange bullet, it all comes back to her, the memories of her true parents, and it unlocks her inheritance. The rainbow swing, a swing that is what is the description, like if you swing without regrets or something like that, or it makes a rainbow. And she hits the perfect shot to win the tournament. They play the OP, and everything's great until it's time for Eve to reckon with who her true parents are. And
gasp.
That's when all the drama hits in the second episode of this block. And I will say, Iroh, you were mostly right. You were on the right track.
Yeah,
I think we may have gotten the actual parents mixed up a little bit, but I knew there was no way in hell that even Aoi were sisters.
There was no way they would, they made everybody sweat by going no kissy at the camera.
Yeah, no, we were all sweating. We were thinking, we got to update the tags on this ship.
Yeah,
and,
I got to watch a week of internet discourse of people being like,
put it next to Kill la Kill.
Yeah, and oh god, so they had to make that clear as soon as possible for everyone.
Last second swerve.
Yeah, they can continue to keep that ship
amp
sailing.
Up the sexual tension.
I think the final clincher for me, so like I was already like, of course Samura must be Aoi's father, but then the thing that made me go, God, duh, of course, is that her mother's name is Seira, Sayla Mass. Amuro and Sayla.
It was staring us in the face at all time this whole time,
which almost guarantees that Seira is siblings of is Leo's sibling, right?
Yeah.
Right, because Seira and Char, or Sayla and Char are brother and sister, which just really makes it so delighttul that this fucking golf anime is also like a weird AU Gundam fan thing.
Gundam, yes.
Yeah, golf AU.
And anyway, so long and short of it, Eve reveals that Eve's true parents are a woman named Eleanor Burton from the Frese and Kazuhiko, who was nominally Aoi's father, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason for this, that is all explained in the next episode, is that Seira, Amuro, and Kazuhiko were the three scions of the Amawashi Gulf Zaibatsu. And that
Birdie Wing Zero.
Seira's father wanted to create the greatest Gulf dynasty that ever lived, and as a result, sent them off on their journey to dominate the world of golf. But it is revealed that Seira's father... the RX clubs. Yes, God. But yes, it turns out that Seira's father is a real old-fashioned type and has promised the hand of Seira to whoever can win the next big final golf tournament between Amuro and Kazuhiko. But Seira only loves Amuro. The two are, in fact, already lovers, and Seira has no interest in marrying Kazuhiko. So naturally, at the big golf tournament, Amuro gets hit by his golf cancer and is forced to resign from the tournament.
Despite that he was winning, right?
He was winning. Yes.
Of course,
he would have won if the golf cancer.
So in a hell of a gambit,
it's those T-cells acting up.
Yes. So in a hell of a last-ditch gambit, Seira and Amuro conceive a child out of wedlock, and informs her father before she can be married off to Kazuhiko that she is already pregnant with Amuro's child. Then Kazuhiko returns from his tour in Europe.
After he gets the news that, because I don't think he wanted to marry her either, right? Like that was so he basically.
If we put the timeline together, he arrives back in Japan, haggard, assuming his family died in a boating accident, but understanding Seira's situation. And
the boating accident happens later.
Does it?
No. The explanation is not that. Kazuhiko thinks that his lover from the Frese has died. What is it that he doesn't know that they conceived a child?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kazuhiko does not find that out.
It's just because when he comes back, he's like haggard.
I mean, he looks really messed up.
Yeah.
I don't know if they give an explanation for that, because my thought was, is this after he had his was this after
my assumption,
his battle with Leo or whatever?
Because remember, Amuro was the one who fights.
Amuro was the one that fought Leo, right?
Yes, Amuro was the one who was permanently scarred from fighting Leo.
That was killed in golf, right? Yep.
Right. I mean, that's why we have that whole thing of like, remember when Amuro shows Aoi the magic swing, it's an All Might situation. Yeah. He can only do it once before his body is racked with intense pain.
Right.
Anyway, my assumption with Kazuhiko looking haggard at the reveal was a combination of getting the news from Amuro, but also my assumption was like Kazuhiko must have already fallen in love with Eleanor.
Right, he did not want to do this. Right,
and he also did not want to marry Seira. Right, and so they established the deal that they will raise Seira and Amuro's child. That Kazuhiko will.
He basically agrees to save the child because Grandpa's like, you're going to abort that baby.
Oh, he wants to abort that baby in an instant.
Also, side note, haven't they previously depicted Grandpa as like this kind of goofy old man?
Very doting grandpa?
Doting grandfather?
He also lives in a fucking Yakuza mansion.
Right? I know, but like...
has golf genocided out. So.
That's out the window now.
A very different light,
yeah. I mean, he smacks his daughter and says, "Go get an abortion." I mean, come on,
right?
Yeah.
When in season 1, he was giving Aoi like her favorite cakes from Hokkaido.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you want to be generous, you can always assume this is the case of, like, even if the child was born under unfortunate circumstances, like, familial love won out in the end anyway. Alternatively, Seira's dad is kind of just a piece of shit.
I mean, and as we'll see soon, Seira's also inheriting some of the manipulator gene.
Right. Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? This whole show is about the sins of the father or mother in this case, right? It is children inheriting... the guilt of their parents.
Just like you guys go to the witch for Mercury.
Did you guys see the child? Did you guys see the title of the episode?
Oh yeah.
What was it? I'll pull it up real quick.
Oh man, what was it again?
The strange fates of 2 generations of young people who were caught up in the ego of adults. That is the episode 16.
God, that
title. It's a hoot to me because like the early episodes of the show were just called like Rainbow Bullet or VR,
right?
And then at some point the episode titles became like a Baccano episode titles, right? It's like we've got Final Bullet, then each of us Satomi wants to be pro caddy. No matter how tall we grow, it will never reach the sun. Are Aoi and Eve okay together? The doubles championship begins. I don't know.
Oh my god! But
he might drive a dog to kill, but we'll never break him.
Yes, the summary. So yes, and so long story short, eventually though, Kazuhiko does find out that he sired a child with his European lover, and that is what motivates him to return to Nefrese, where he meets Eve for the first time and teaches her golf, and we find out that Eve, like Aoi, has a genetic predisposition towards being a great golfer, but unfortunately, then Eve's family is killed in a tragic, and as far as I can tell, totally mundane, no euphemism boating accident.
There's no way that was an accident, though, right?
Yeah,
this is what I'm saying, right?
Leo hit a golf ball on the Cape of Good Hope and shot a wave across the earth to knock over that cruise ship in your front.
Oh, Leo used the spin to alter the currents of the ocean.
Golf Act 4.
Oh my god! But and that's how we get to the modern day of Eve. Eve survives the boating accident, gets the scar, gets amnesia, and then is raised in the ways of golf from Leo. And so now we have a situation. So now we have the situation where Aoi has inherited Amuro's golf and the Amawashi, fortune and resources against Eve, who has inherited the teachings of both Kazuhiko and Leo. And we kind of have that set up as our final rivalry, right? They part ways, tears in the rain, right? After the big reveal. Eve does her fucking asshole gaijin smash.
I'm not here to make friends.
Right. Like, she's not even she doesn't even try to be remotely comforting to Aoi. She's just like
Aoi, who is upset because she still thinks that she's her sister. And
there's this exchange I thought was hilarious where Eve is like, we've got different fathers or whatever, and Aoi's like, no, are you saying my father would lie? And Eve's like, are you saying my father would lie? Basically, it's like,
oh man,
Eve's
my
proof,
father's a liar. Yeah,
Eve's proof is that she can do the rainbow swing, and she actually there's that screen cap where she's gently caressing Aoi's face, and she's like, "I can do the rainbow swing, don't you see?" Like,
yeah. Oh my
so
God.
good.
So I mean, like the way this has to escalate, right? Is I mean, in some regards, right? I mean, I am delighting in this, but like the narrative trend of this is that we are now setting up Eve to kind of be the final villain.
Yeah. So here's my. All right, I want to get into my crazy theory of where we go from here, because I feel like we've gotten all of our crazy theories have been based around who their parents are, and that's now out of the way, right?
Yeah.
So we have to now, like, where are we going, right? So Ira, you had a good point where it did feel like this was kind of like where it felt like season 1 was supposed to end, right?
Yeah,
right.
Like at least at the golf tournament part, right? Like that seemed to be when they play the OP at the end of the golf tournament. That felt like that should have been the end of season 1, right? And so now it's like, what are we going to get into now? And the episode between the end of the episode and what we see in the previews, Eve's going to get deported, right?
Yep.
Right. Sarah is like, I can't let Aoi realize the truth. I need to get rid of Eve.
Because she finds out that when Eve competed in her first tournament, she used the last name Allion, which is a tip-off that
the mafia, the golf mafia, were involved.
She was involved with the golf mafia, and she doesn't want her daughter getting involved in the golf mafia. So Eve's getting deported. We saw she's going to be back into Nefrese, or however we say
Bear
that.
is back,
and
we already know
hypnotic titty sweat are back.
Yes, again. somehow Vipera is coming back out of retirement, according to the preview. So what if the mafia is still going to be after Eve when she comes back?
Yes.
Right? She's going to strike some kind of deal with them.
I think so. Yeah.
What if she does take the Allion name for real and becomes like the new Rose as the boss of the mafia?
Maybe.
I was actually thinking that, right? Because like the thing that's going to happen, right, is that Eve needs a way to get back to Japan, right? But she's been deported. So only through mafia connections would she be able to have enough clout to get back in illegally.
And it's going to be the golf mafia. And she's going to have to do something to both survive and protect
down the Amawashi Zaibatsu.
Yeah. So, I mean, and she's going to have to do something she's going to have to strike some kind of deal to protect herself and her family in Nefrese, right? So, like, is this going to be Eve's golf mafia versus Aoi's golf Zaibatsu world global conflict
versus the light side?
In the end, I think I kind of like, I don't know what the details are going to be like, but I kind of feel like that's generally the direction we're going to be headed.
And in the end, they'll be fighting with golf clubs and Yamada-kun.
Yeah.
And
in the end, it has to be this way, right?
And then they'll both remember that the true villains are the Zabi family.
Well, and then they'll kiss at the end, right? Please.
Yeah. And a new type flash will happen. Yeah.
It's truly, we've said it a million times. We've been like, damn, without the golf mafia, how could Birdie Wing possibly keep staying interesting? It's finding the way.
They figured it out.
And just bringing the golf mafia back. So really, best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Yeah. As much as I enjoyed the golf tournament, I am glad that we're not just going to be like on to the next set of superpower girls to fight. Well, I would have enjoyed that, but this is so much better.
I think in many ways, the golf tournament actually exposed what I think may be a potential critical weakness of Birdie Wing, which is that the semifinals match was way more interesting because their rivals had stands, right? Whereas the actual finals was kind of boring because they were just regular good golfers.
It's funny because it's almost like the semifinals pushed them hard enough to level up to a point where the finals didn't matter, right?
Exactly. That's kind of exactly what it is, right? Yeah.
Well, I think we haven't seen the last of the top ranked girl that they beat in the finals because
she also considers herself a true protege of Kazuhiko.
Yeah, so she's gonna. I think she's gonna get. I think I would almost guarantee she will get one of the color powers, right? Like
sure, yeah,
some kind of color power, but
which is all to say. I don't mean this in the way, I don't mean this word in the way that conservatives have appropriated this term, but is Kazuhiko a golf groomer? Like, it seems like he spent a lot of his career just, like, approaching random, like, young girls and then teaching them his, like, super secret golf arts.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of them was his daughter.
I mean, Leo's doing the same thing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we didn't even mention Leo has a new protege named Aisha, right? Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
like-
Yeah, so we were talking about this earlier. It's like going back to Nefrese lets us golf against more wackadoo people
yeah,
who
exactly.
aren't in the structure of being pro golfers, right?
Right.
Like Eve can golf against Aisha, the like genius 10-year-old golfer or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, man.
The possibilities are endless, and I love it.
Yeah,
Just absolutely love it.
yeah. Also, just obviously, I would have liked to watch the show like last season, but having aired this season and then having the stuff with Sarah and Aoi is particularly goofy when the show airs. 2 days from which Mercury.
Yes.
it's particularly goofy, right? It's so fun.
We're watching two Gundam
if you
shows.
move forward, you gain 2 Aoi.
Yeah, basically.
This is the spectral chains wrap around.
Oh my god,
God.
yeah. Dude, I mean Sarah Amawashi is trying to compete with Lady Prospera for Mom of the Year in scare quotes.
Yes.
That's so funny.
I'll admit I was totally wrong on her. I took the bait on her looking like Eve and possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all did. It felt obvious at the time, right? But
oh man, yep.
All right,
Wow.
well, love that
Pretty.
show still. Continues.
anime
to be
of
wild.
the year.
Anime of the year, Birdie Wing. But we do have some other good anime to talk about.
Yeah,
We do.
Oof.
Let's talk about Heavenly Delusion, or I guess I should add the actual Japanese title because that's what officially it appears
That's what
on
Hulu calls it.
Oh, seriously.
on Hulu. What is it, G?
Tengoku Daimakyo.
Yes, I'll put it back on the show notes so that it's both there at this point. But I'll admit I broke down and re-upped my Hulu subscription because I was away from home and it was the only way I could watch it in time.
Ah, damn. They
Dang.
got you.
That's how they get you. But I only got the $7.99 version and not the $14.99 version. So take that, Hulu.
Yeah, you really showed them by giving
really
them
showed you.
Uh-huh.
I'm canceling.
Take that,
I'm
Disney.
canceling this thing as soon as the show is over.
Like that mouse.
Yeah. Anyway,
But
Heavenly Delusion.
A couple more pretty big reveal heavy episodes.
I'm enjoying that they are answering questions with questions for the most part.
Yes.
Also, this show just looks so good visually.
does.
Yeah, like as me and Eero were sort of talking about that, I'm sure you'll know this feeling, Jel. It's crazy that the monsters are hand drawn in this anime, right?
Yeah, because
Like, they're not
they
CG.
could very easily be CG, like the
Right.
way they're
Like,
designed and
the
everything.
the fucking fish with the
Handfish.
hands in the 4th episode, just hand drawn, like fucking scrambling on the side of that boat.
Yeah. I mean, if you can imagine for the listeners, you can imagine hand animating tentacles, basically, but with hands on
Right,
the end, which
yes.
is even more complicated.
Oh, totally.
And it's all
yeah,
hand animated.
Yeah, production IG threw a lot behind this one, which is wild to me. But
And sad because
I
I don't think anybody's watching it. Thanks, Hulu.
Thanks, Hulu. But
no, yeah, there's
it's just,
a lot.
I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. As this is all new to you guys.
Man, I'm enjoying it a lot. I was worried. I think that would just be sort of bog standard post-apocalypse type stuff, and like I think some of that stuff still happens, but
Yeah.
then like once it's, as Jel said, when it's answering questions with more questions, like Kiruko explains the whole mind. I have the mind of a man inside of me, and so of course we get this flashback to Tokyo where they're racing go-karts and stuff, right? And monsters happen, and Kiruko has a circular scar around the top of her head.
Yes, I mean,
And,
so the thing we find out, right, is that
Mhm.
there was a pair of siblings once named Kiriko and
Haruki, yeah.
Haruki. Yes,
Yeah,
and that.
so Kiruko is Haruki in Kiriko's body.
Did you guys think it would literally be
Like a brain transplant, like
a
fucking...
brain transplant situation?
No, I just thought it would be some kind of magic, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, they it inside the stomach of a man-eater or some shit, right?
Yeah,
like,
I wouldn't have...
kind of might have happened, actually, but...
I wouldn't... I mean, I don't think any explanation would have surprised me, given the context of the show so far. I mean, we've got these, weird fantasy monsters running around. Like, it's... I'll accept pretty much any explanation at this point.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, again, that is another question being answered with a question here. Okay, so, she... at the very least thinks that her brother is inside, is she's her brother, or he's her sister. I don't know how you want to describe that, but what actually happened.
So I don't think they were actually siblings. Like,
I don't think they were physically.
They were in an orphanage or something. And also there was the whole doofy scene in like the first episode where Kiruko is like gonna make out with her reflection, right?
Because that certainly has a different context now that you know some things.
Because Haruki is hot for Kiriko.
Yes.
Even if he is now inside of Kiriko.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so we had the one episode that was primarily the flashback to explain all that. A lot of children dying this week.
Yeah.
Graphic fashion. And so we get that, and we got some more of the school or whatever that kind of more futuristic looking places that we don't know.
These
we don't
kids
know a lot about yet.
These kids are trying new things out.
Yeah.
And all the adults going, no, we didn't teach them that.
Yeah. A lot of stuff going on there that we just... I love it because it's a lot of... I like the way that they're teasing things and not giving you answers. It's not like frustrating, but also intriguing. But I think the biggest thing is it appears like, is there some connection between, like, are they making the man-eaters there or something? Is that
they've got weird baby creatures?
Which
who knows?
Babies don't have faces.
Which makes me wonder: are these both happening at the same time, or is that the past? I don't know.
The one kid's drawing the monsters on his sketchpad.
Right. Didn't he draw the fish monster or something? And we saw it later.
Yeah, and they very conspicuously match like frog ? Girl who can walk on walls and stuff, like next to fish which also is walking on walls with its hands, like next to each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of creepy implications.
There's definitely some parallels going on there.
And
the Foley work when that fish is scrambling on the wall.
Yeah. You hear that wet slap on metal?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, that's real. You just go like, I don't want to hear that sound.
And then they kill it with weed.
They sure do.
I think it's funny because I assume to a Japanese audience, knowing vaguely what I know about Japan, they probably see the weed and go like, "Oh shit!" Like that's probably like so like serious to them that it shows how degenerate the post-apocalypse is. That this ship is transporting, the devil's lettuce across the sea. But like to me, I'm just like, okay,
yep. They got some weed down. That's
we saw them growing it, at the farm. Right. So, it's like, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. From
our perspective, I was saying, like, to us, it would have to be like, and here are stacks of crack cocaine, right?
Right,
like,
vials of heroin or something.
Right. Whereas over here, I can legally buy many things, like at a store that's literally like 100 feet from my front door. But so. It continues to be an interesting mix between like the post-apocalyptic road trip show, which so far is my favorite part, because I do like Kiriko and Maru's sort of like they're kind of lovable dirtbags a little bit, right? As they're making their way to across.
These guys being dudes.
Yeah, and just a couple bros, making their way through, the post-apocalypse, and then the very stark contrast of the the institute and whatever weird things are, whatever high science magic things are going on over there.
You guys didn't even mention the pregnant AI god that lives in the facility.
There's some weird, creepy things going on.
I think my favorite thing about the Institute in these episodes is when they sneak in to see the horrible baby creatures, and then the alarm sounds, and not only is it revealed that it sounded to draw the adults away from discovering the kids in there, which has various other implications, but it's you have the people who are ostensibly running this facility go what does intruder found alert me? I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do about this.
How familiar with this facility are even the people running it?
Right, exactly.
That is
And
you definitely begin to get a feel that there are multiple levels of awareness at the facility. You have the children who are almost entirely unaware, right?
Yep.
They're just living their idyllic lives.
You have the rank and file markers, yeah.
Yes, you have your adults who are aware of some truths to the facility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the AI and the old woman in the wheelchair who potentially know even more about
probably
what is going on here.
Them, and then knowing that there is some kind of AI covering for these kids,
that has its own agenda.
Earlier stuff into light, because
why is this AI
who would hack the kids test tablet to say, do you want to go outside, who would hide the security cams, who would send nudie pics to the other kids, etc. Spoof the cameras
well, I'm definitely enjoying it. I guess the only thing I would say, and this is kind of a minor thing, I guess, just my personal preference. I find the show it's visually stunning. I find it very intellectually interesting. I guess I'm not really emotionally into it yet, if that makes sense.
I think that's fair.
As far as I would be
yeah.
with some of the other shows that I'm watching this season.
I'm a little. I'm also a little more I'm curious about what's going on, rather than oh no, not Maru and Kiriko getting into danger.
Right. And I do like them. Don't get me wrong.
I think you have nailed something pretty well with this, Jel, which is that Maru and Kiriko are a very likable duo. Yeah. The kids are compelling in their own way, but you don't necessarily quite have that white hot character dynamic that makes you go like we talk about these other shows. I mean, as much as we're joking about a Birdie Wing or something, you need what really grabs you, right, is a very strong character dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that really makes you go, I need to know what happens to this person next week, right? In many ways, I think Heavenly Delusion's strength and weakness is that it is much more interested in the world than necessarily the perspective of one individual character.
Yeah, and that might be my personal preference, because I tend to connect more with the things that are my favorite anime. I'm gonna connect more emotionally with the characters, and usually there's gonna be some more I guess more connection to reality, if you will, real emotions, real metaphors for real world problems. Not that there's not any of that in here, but you know what I mean. It's this feels more like a like you said, it's kind of a world building type of, which is fascinating. But
and on that front, because I feel this way, same as you, the expressive character animation is doing a lot of heavy lifting, actually.
For these characters, yes.
Yeah.
I wonder how. It's a good question of how much is the production how much work is the production doing in sucking me into this? If this was just garbage animation or something, would I be as interested? I don't know.
I think question. I will say I think this is one of those works that is really benefiting from its production. I think so. The way I would put it is, I think some stories don't necessarily need the best production in the world to still tell a compelling story.
Right.
Then you have stories like Heavenly Delusion, which I legitimately do enjoy the manga. But I think this is specifically a type of story that would suffer heavily from a poor production.
Yeah.
And having a good production is just allowing its best points to shine better while sort of papering over some of its weaknesses. I mean,
well, it allows you to have like it allows you to have kind of a subtlety to it that you can inject a lot of like the personality and things with just the animation, right?
Like I'm sort of trying to like picture a version of the show in my head that's a little more static, like that feels more panel to panel, like some other adaptations, right?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm way less into this, right?
I mean, I will say, right, it's like the manga does have it. I mean, I've mentioned that they've they've been editing here and there, right? Like I think the manga probably it makes up in its more in-depth focus, I guess I would say.
Right. I'm sure the manga's a different medium, so like, I'd be okay with it there, right? But I'm saying like a less well-made anime.
Right. Oh, totally. I just want to like one example of this that I can now talk about is that in the original manga, I think in like the first or second chapter, Maru notices that Kiriko has a cranial scar.
Oh, okay.
And like, doesn't comment on it. He just knows like, wow, like, damn, that's a gnarly looking scar on her head. I wonder what happened, right?
Right.
And so you have stuff like that adds more to like the eventual reveal of the mystery, right? And I think, the anime does not have time for every individual scene like that. And so I think it is made up in its production, in the way its character animation is, it's the way everything moves, right? It imbues it with a different kind of life than the original source material, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Yep. So I hope people eventually check this out. I don't know if you guys. I haven't seen anybody talking about this other than us.
Nope. But I mean, I don't look at social media. But
yeah, I mean, I will admit, I think I had assumed the internet would be in an uproar over certain reveals about this show if it had aired on Crunchyroll or something. But because it has been doomed to Hulu obscurity, nobody has.
Can't have an uproar if nobody's watching it.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Thanks, Hulu. So anyway, we got to talk about Gundam. I've lost track of time.
All right. Speaking of uproarious,
it's a Gundam.
Yeah. So Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury.
Oh my goodness!
Things going down,
dude. If it was just one episode, this could go long. Yeah. We have to talk about
I just realized
episodes.
We could talk about last week.
All right.
Yeah.
So.
Oh baby.
So let me just say broadly. If we were concerned that we were going to be spending a lot of time back in the status quo, that's not going to happen.
They sure put a robot-sized boot to that notion.
I'm on tape saying the Witch's Earth would start blasting and mess everything up.
That is what they start doing.
Yes, which is not that hard thing to figure out. But
yeah, the first episode was like let's essentially call it the duel with Sophie and Suletta, right?
Yeah.
And which, the gets basically
cut short.
Yes, I was looking for the right word for that.
Doing some Apex Legends 3-team stuff.
Right. It starts off with a school-sanctioned battle royale between all the houses. Right, everybody who's got beef with Suletta is taking this as an opportunity to get their shots in. Cecilia stands up for the first time. I don't think it's the first time she stood up, but she gets off the chair. I will note it's very funny how lonely that room has become over the course of these seasons.
And the like kid with the Haro. Yeah,
it's just her and the Haro kid now. Like everybody's like dead or exiled or gone.
No more dueling committee.
Yeah. But yeah. So that gets interrupted by Sophie and Norea in their war crime Gundams from last season.
Yep. Making everybody go, oh no, those two crazy girls are the ones who attacked us.
Their suits are not bound by the dueling low caliber rules, so they just start blasting with physical ammunition and lasers. They kill a kid, at least one.
They kill that poor gun tank.
Yeah, they kill that guy in the gun tank. Shoutouts to like, so obviously like House de Turk is there, Grassley is there, right? Shadik's battle harem are there, and then you just have this like third like group of like just total like the most obvious like beige colored jobbers.
Yeah.
Just shoutouts to them for hey, good hustle, man.
I was a little scared for Choo Choo in this fight.
Yeah. I'm glad Choo Choo found her bloodlust again, but
as Suletta's like only backup, right? Like, I was a little scared for her on this one, but
quick work with Choo Choo where she goes to shoot the thing, and then she, her PTSD from the Planqueta thing, and she, she can't shoot, but then a few minutes later she is back to being furious Choo Choo.
Right, and I think the thing that works there, right, is this is what I always talk about how economic G-Witch's storytelling is that, like, in an ideal world, we would have had a whole episode devoted to Choo Choo's, like, trauma, right? But, sadly, Choo Choo is not a important enough character to get a full episode devoted to her, so we have her basically go through the motions at 4x speed, right? And the thing that works about her, right, is that it feels true to her character. Like, does it happen a little quickly? Yes, undeniably so, but Choo Choo does strike me as the type of person who, in the face of trauma, would use anger as a crutch to get over it, right? Like Choo Choo's not going to have like a moment of like clarity or revelation. She's going to punch herself in the gut and get angry, and that's what makes like a development like that work. And as a result, I found myself weirdly compelled by Sophie in a way that I did not expect in this episode, right? Where
they try to make her character a little more complicated, right? Like,
where it's like
what they do is they
psycho,
give Sophie,
but then she's like,
she's a psychopath with like almost tragically basic like dreams.
Right, she's like, they're like, why are you so crazy? She's like, I'm fighting because I want so many things, like a bed and food.
Right.
And a shower.
Video games and manga, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you think about, like, especially in the context of Gundam, right? You think about what have people fought for in Gundam? High-minded ideals, right? Political changes to the planet itself, fascism, right? Like, there are so many things people have fought and killed for in Gundam. And to have a character with, like, such, again, tragically basic desires, but she is still willing to commit to the same level of violence as other villains in the franchise.
And, like, the first half of the series has been all about, like, duels with sometimes comically dumb, low-stakes things, right?
And this girl just wants, like, fucking, 3 hots in a cot, man. Like...
Yeah. And I'll just throw in from the next episode just to reinforce, like, we see, like, later when the kids put together the grave for her, right? Like, They're trying to make it so she's not just, she's this crazy terrorist that's murdering everyone, we got to put her down, right? Like, it's a little more complex than that is what it
does effectively is, even if you I mean, again, like, even Choo Choo calls out that, like, even Choo Choo, the diehard anti-Spacian, recognizes that their actions are, terrorist in nature, but these aspects of the story help you understand how could somebody become radicalized like this, right?
What drove you to this point? Right.
What drove like someone to the point of, I need to commit murder because that will get me like 3 meals a day, And what the second of these 2 episodes enforces is it's because of the status quo of the Benerit group, right? Is this imperialist, capitalist like grip on the world that has driven these people to such violent means. And I gotta give shoutouts to Sophie's voice actor. She
like her screaming and howling and
her
panting,
her howls, some really good howls of anguish in this episode.
Or just
as a result of
trying to scream while out of breath, like
right. And she is screaming because Suletta's perhaps not Suletta, but Eri has taken the reins of Ariel.
frying her brain out with the data storm.
And this is where we finally confirm that Lady Prospera has put her first daughter, Eric Samaya, into the Gundam Ariel somehow. Right? Her consciousness now resides in the Gundam.
Yes.
And that is what allows Suletta to use the Gundam technology without a negative effect is because she's never used the Gundam technology.
Right. She is just
it has always been Eri.
She's just saying, hey, do this, and Ariel does it.
And, I feel like sometimes people say, oh man, that show's going full Evangelion. And I think that sometimes that's reductive. It's too simplistic. I think Lady Prosper might be trying to affect human instrumentality here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of she literally says,
a little on the nose.
She literally says, we'll all soon be joining Eri in the fucking
Quiet
Zero
store. Quiet Zero seems to be I feel like the clear implication is it's some kind of plan to digitize everyone's consciousness, right? And connect them with the data within the data storm.
Right. It's whoo boy.
Yeah. Oh man.
And then the second episode of these two happen.
The second episode, yes.
Episode 15 of The Witch from Mercury, which does not feature The Witch from Mercury.
No. This episode is titled Father and Child. And we find out what our friend Bob has been up to. Bob
I was to relate a bit to the previous episode. I think when we were watching, because at the start of this episode is Nika being savagely beaten by Norea or whatever.
Yes.
Because you ratted us out and all the Earthians are gonna die. Are you happy now?
Because a key thing here is at the end of the first of these two episodes, yes, Nika rats out the truth of the Earth terrorists to, I guess, the space cops. I guess
Right. But then it is picked up by Shadiq's people before she can do it for reals.
But what this does is this gives the Benerit group the location of the what is it? Their actual organization name is Dawn of the Fold, I think. Yeah. The Dawn of the Fold compound, right? Where we find out it is not just a terrorist organization; it is a refugee camp. It is a community of civilians and children included, and. I was initially a little put off at the start of this episode because obviously Norea is savagely beating Nika, and Nika says that basically that it's some centrism shit, right? She's saying that the Earthians are going too far, right?
You're fighting against the status quo too hard in the wrong ways.
Right. And Norea responds, "People are going to die because of you." And at first you go, "Oh well, because Nika is the sympathetic character, you're meant to agree with her, right?" And then the rest of the episode happens that proves Norea was actually completely right. Nika kills... She did not pull the trigger, but blood is on Nika's hands by the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Innocent people are dead because of what she's done. And you can argue, that, she had legitimate motivations to do what she had done, or that, the Earthian terrorists potentially had gone too far. But at the end of it, the core of this episode is that the Benerit group is committed to using, its violence to enforce its imperialist status quo by any means necessary, right? There aren't arrests being made here. There's no sanctions happening. The Benerit group essentially sends a kill squad,
right?
And then they wipe out this camp.
But then they also make sure to specify it's not their special anti-Gundam kill squad. It's just their regular security dudes.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
It's just the cops. Right?
Special...
It's not even SWAT, it's just the cops.
Right. And what we get is one of the hardest fucking fights I have seen in G.
This is what I was talking about with the other incident of catnip for G here.
So, no Gundams this episode. It's purely a fight between the Dawn of the Fold and the Benerit's enforcers, right? And so it's basically just grunt on grunt action. No Gundams, no special prototypes. Just a bunch of fucking hard fucking dudes fighting for their life with their outdated machinery and equipment. And it's raw, dude. I love this episode. This is the kind of episode that, I don't... Okay, if I'm being 100% honest, I wish Gundam was like this all the time, but I recognize it can't be. So when it does happen, I get pretty fucking excited because, like,
this is what like Kyokai Senki should have been.
Yes, it really is what Kyokai Senki should have been.
Iron Blood Orphans should have been like.
Yes, but what this episode gets at is like, it reminds you that war fucking sucks when you don't have a cool robot. I mean, these robots are cool,
cool robot.
but they are not cool enough to. These robots are not cool enough to survive a point-blank shot to the chest, you know? Which is what happens a weird amount of times in this episode.
They can't just think, hey, I'd fry that person's brain and then you win automatically. Yes,
no,
you have to.
I mean, the Dawn of the Folds mechs don't even have lasers, right? They're using physical ammunition. And we see multiple times it bounces off the Benerit group's mechs harmlessly.
I think the only projectiles that work is when like the truck with the missile pod just
with the rockets,
dumps all of them at like point blank range.
Yeah, and it's like, and it tells you that it's like, it shows you the power differential, right? Like the Earthians are like, I mean, the Earthians are killed to. There's a single sole survivor of the Earthian side, right? It takes all of their efforts to take out essentially 4 cops.
Yeah,
like 4 cops in mechs. Like these aren't even their spec ops. This isn't their SWAT. This isn't even their best of the best. They sent 4 beat cops to wipe out a homeless encampment, and it took almost everything they had just to fight them off. And it reminds you that the next time Suletta chops up like 8 of these dudes without breaking a sweat, like the terrifying difference in power that different factions have access to, and that different factions are allowed to monopolize. Right?
You can see why they would like call them witches or something, right? It's like a terrifying sort of almost supernatural power compared to what they're working with,
right. Like, and it makes sense that the Benerit group is terrified because the witches represent the only thing that can challenge their monopoly on violence, right? We see from this fight, like, we don't know if the Dawn of the Fold is the only rebel force on Earth, but they're the prominent one we've been shown, and we just shown that the best of their best can at best like fight to a draw. You know, like it's This is the kind of stuff that I live for in real robot anime. And I love it because not only is it a good fight, not only is it a cool robot moment, but it does a fantastic job of reinforcing G-Witch's themes, which means that it's not just a good fight, it evokes, it reminds you at its core what this story is about.
Right. It's a valuable contributing piece to the story, in addition to Wow Cool Robot.
Yeah, and you know,
unlike
also
anime.
You know, just a really fucking fucking drive the screws in, right? This episode ends with Guel finding his conviction after failing to save a child.
Dead kids. Right on camera.
This week. Yeah.
Oh man. Not pulling its punches. I do love it because I mean I'm not saying this just because I'm bloodthirsty, but like, you know, the Gundam duels have been fun, but there's also a certain pageantry to them, right?
They're not going to be deadly, and it is kind of all for show. This Gundam's all for show.
Yeah, the worst thing that happens to you in a duel is your pride gets hurt, right? Or you're the first Elan clone, you get put into a microwave chamber. But, you know, it is what it is. But, like, this shit reminds you that, like, I mean, this is what Sophie was telling Suletta in the first of these 2 episodes. Why do you pilot the Gundam? You know, Suletta's like, no, the Gundam's for good. And Sophie's like, then why does it have a gun?
Yes.
You know?
Tools for violence.
And
this is all,
a sword is a tool of justice.
And they really kind of hammer home the whole, like you said, the themes. Like, what is the title of this episode? Like,
Father and Child.
Yeah, like, you know, all these kids that have been, you know, raised with certain ideologies by their parents that are now getting challenged, right? Like, that's like whether it's our friend Bob there or well, not this latest episode, Mirene, previous episode, but Suletta and Mirene are both. Mirene, she kind of gets her moment at the very, very end, right? Post ED,
right?
Where I don't know who that guy. I don't remember who that guy was that she was talking to.
I think that was probably like Delling's like main lieutenant.
his main like assistant or whatever, right?
Yeah.
He tells her, you're not your father. You have to make your own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
They're really hammering that home with all this, right?
Right. I mean, I think a big theme of G-Witch will be which of these children will inherit the sins and the guilt of their predecessors and which will forge a new path. I mean, the reason I will admit, I'm very worried about Guel now because my hope was that Guel seeing the violence enacted upon Earthians by the Spacians would like make him go native and radicalize him into an Earthian terrorist. Right. But instead, the episode ends with him doubling down on being his father's son.
I have to go back to space, tell my brother.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, not necessarily for purely selfish means, right? What he said, what Guel admittedly does say specifically is, I don't want to lose anything else that connects me to my father.
Right.
The implication obviously being his brother, right? Lauda, right? Like he is returning to the Jeturk fold to save his family, or what is left of his family.
It's still very funny that like the thing that makes him stop being catatonic is here that Jeturk's about to go bankrupt.
Yeah, look, he's still a rich kid at heart,
which means Lauda is in trouble.
Yeah. And so I think that like if I hate to say it, I wanted my boy to make it through the show so badly. I feel like Guel wrote his death sentence in this episode. If the goal of Suletta and Miorine is to escape from the sins of their parents,
he's going to be the example of not escaping.
I think so. And it breaks my heart. I love my dipshit son. I love Bob. He was trying so hard for a while, and he just couldn't escape. He could not escape the gravity. Yeah,
Yeah.
But this show, I think we've talked about how the show's storytelling is economical, and circle back to what I was like saying earlier about like Call of the Night and Insomniacs After School, like being able to by having like big robots and explosions and these extremely dramatic, operatic things happening, like, helps to hammer those themes home of, like, very quickly and strongly, right? Here's this dead child, like, you know, because we don't have 52 episodes in this show.
And it is a fine line you have to walk between,
totally, right?
Doing just enough. You can be economical, but you still have to do enough for it to buy into it and not just be like, throwing it out there and saying "cry, damn it" or whatever, right?
You're right.
But it's a fine line that I think they're mostly walking well.
Yeah, I mean, it's
a little over the top, but I think they are.
I'm out here laughing at how they're pointing a dead child because it's like incredibly over the top, but also like I am like appreciating what they're doing with it, right?
It's still effective.
We can both recognize it as melodramatic and then still be emotionally affected by it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And they're walking that line pretty good.
Yeah, which is like, and that feels very Gundam to me, right? Like, you can show this dead child. You'll show this dead child on screen, just straight in the middle of the camera, and I will laugh and I will think, "Wow, war is fucked up." Because, like, in the same way that, like, we're watching Gundam F91 or something, and that bullshit will hit that lady on the head, and I will laugh, and I will also go, "Man, that's fucked up."
Yes,
this is bad.
Yes, right. It's Gundam has always been melodramatic. It has always been operatic, and I think at its best, it is cases like G-Witch where it uses its operatic nature to lean into its strengths.
Yeah, good show.
So, do we think? What do you think? What do we think Miorine is going to do? Because I feel like that's the least predictable thing to me right now.
I feel like this heavily depends on. I mean, we're starting to get an idea of what Plant Zero is, but we still don't really know concretely what Plant Zero is, and I think that will very much come down to how Miorine responds to discovering whatever that is.
I think we'll like ambiguously float the idea of her like working on this thing, and eventually it'll be revealed that Quiet Zero is bad. And, then it will come into question of, is Miorine, like, going to do the bad thing for, her own reasons?
And then she's going to choose to be her own person. And
with the help, with a little help from her groom, right? or like hand the switch to Suletta or something, you know.
Yeah.
Suletta will have to put a bullet into Eri.
Oh
God.
I don't think. Okay,
I don't think they'll go that
say,
far. Yes,
I'm kidding.
I think I do think Eri is not going to survive this show. I mean, arguably she's already not survived this show. She's in a fucking Gundam, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's going to be the thing. I mean,
I'm just
I
saying,
think
like
Eri's
at the end,
right?
like
because okay,
yeah,
okay. Because the thing I was going to say is, if you guys have read the novel, the mini novel
from season 1
for season 1 of G-Wish,
I did not, but
okay, I'm going to be real, guys. I think you have to read it. I think this gives very important context to the story. But the long and short of it is that this novella is told from Ariel's perspective.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was ambiguous. Like, is this meant to be like a plot? Like, is this meant to be literally from the Gundam's perspective?
Or just like animism, right?
Right. And I mean, I think now we know the answer, but very specifically, a point in the novella is that Ariel opposes Lady Prospera's plans. She opposes her own mother. She actually pleads,
right? She like
to
opposes
her mother,
but like cannot go against it either, right?
Yes, yeah. She pleads to her mother to not involve Suletta in her grand plan. And but at the same time, she cannot fight back against it, right? There is an implied whatever sentience exists in the Gundam Ariel. There are also things in place that limitations, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so the novella basically concludes, and this goes along with the lyrics of the first OP,
mm-hmm.
is that the Gundam Ariel has committed that no matter what happens, no matter what path Suletta goes down, no matter what happens to her, she will always have Suletta's back, right? Regardless of what choices she makes, even if it's against their own mother, Ariel will back Suletta.
Oh,
and
man,
I think,
right?
Are they gonna have to like literally fight? Is Lady Prospera gonna get in a?
Activate the data storm.
I think
permit score 5.
That is going to be the linchpin of the finale of the show, right?
Get in the next prototype.
I just see in my mind's eye like a situation where, because Ariel's been plugged into Quiet Zero and it is the linchpin to the network or whatever, like they will have to destroy Ariel, and Suletta and Ariel will have a talk in the mind dimension or whatever, and
naked space floating.
If you hold, naked space floating.
We're definitely going to get naked space floating at some point.
If you hold back and stay with me, you gain 1. But if you move forward and blow me up, you'll gain 2. Suletta, all right?
Okay. Shoot me, Suletta.
It's like when frickin' in Kill when Senketsu's like, girl's gotta outgrow her school uniform.
God.
Oh God!
We're gonna have is Ariel's gonna burn up in the atmosphere? Save Suletta.
Hey, look, you gotta have a re-entry.
I think we'll end on before we get into a kill tangent.
Sorry.
But, no, that's good. That's a good prediction. I think of the general idea of where we're headed. But yeah. All right. Well, that continues to be great. So we got those 3 ongoing shows we're talking about here are some real
barbers.
Yeah.
Those alone are making this a real enjoyable season for me.
And I'll point out again, we haven't even talked about Vinland Saga, which is also airing this season.
Yeah, yes. And there's some stuff to talk about with like Kamergeets.
Yeah, so when we as some of these are going to come off the books next week, we'll have time to get back to the other ongoing shows that were prior to this season.
Right.
So a lot to watch. It's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid season.
Yeah.
So. Solid collection, I'd say.
All right. That's going to do it for this episode then. So let's do our housekeeping. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com, where we have written about a bunch of other shows that we didn't have time to talk about today. Most of them were bad, but you can hear me talk about I don't even remember the names of them. They've already gone out of my brain at this point. but I've watched quite a few other bad shows as well for first looks. You need to check us out on Twitter. Still there. We don't have a blue check mark.
We need to get a free one
at GLORIO blog. At GLORIO blog. I never write down the Twitter actually. Right. I think it's at GLORIO. It's not the GLORIO blog. It's at GLORIO blog, right? And then co-host is at GLORIO, and you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and of course YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, leave us a comment, tell us what shows that we missed, because there's a lot of them we didn't talk about out there. Maybe we missed something. Let us know. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch everybody next time.